Hey folks, welcome to the Safety Solutions Academy. My name is Paul Carlson, and I'm so glad that you're here with me today out at the range on a beautiful sunny day. You know, we just got done taking a look at an important aspect of defensive shooting, and that's our stance. It's our foundation. It's really where everything else begins. It's what we build off of. When it comes to handling our firearm, maybe one of the most important things we can do after we get a good solid stance is to have an excellent grip. And that's what we're going to look at today. Some tips for you to have a better defensive grip on your handgun. Let's jump in. When it comes to defensive shooting, having a solid grip is super important. Our grip provides a good interface between ourselves and one of the best tools we can use for personal protection, that's our handgun. We want to have a grip that's going to give a solid platform for the firearm itself to run, and we want a grip that's going to allow us to shoot efficiently. So today I'm going to break down some important tips that'll help you have a better defensive shooting grip regardless of what kind of handgun you're shooting. Before we jump in, if you're following along at home, know and understand it's your responsibility to verify that your firearm is unloaded and you're in a place that is safe for you to be working on the grip of your handgun. That's not my job. That's your responsibility. Verify that that firearm is unloaded both physically and visually. Distract yourself and then verify it again. And then if you determine it's safe, you can follow right along with us. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start out by getting my firearm into my primary hand. My primary hand is the hand that I hold the gun with. It's probably the hand that most of you write with. Now, there are four things that I want to make sure that I establish when it comes to my grip with my primary hand. To do that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my offhand, my secondary hand, on top of the slide of the gun, kind of like I'm putting a saddle on a horse. Now here we go. This is what we want to do to have a solid grip. The first thing we want to do is we want to have our hand as high up on the back strap of the gun as possible. We want to get that hand all the way up into the beaver tail of the gun. That brings the barrel down as low as possible and reduces the amount of leverage the gun can exert when it fires and reduces the felt recoil. Next, I want to make sure that my finger, my trigger finger, is someplace other than the trigger. It's going to be straight along the side of the frame, and I prefer a high index. Take a look at this finger register. I've got my finger way up here. The farther away it is from the trigger, the better off you are. Next, I want to make sure that my middle finger is hard up against the bottom of the trigger guard. So again, holding on to the top of the gun like I'm putting a saddle on a horse, I want my middle finger hard up against the bottom of the trigger guard. Next, on the opposite side of the gun, for me it's the left, I want to make sure that my thumb is up high, and that opens up all of this real estate on the side of the gun. That's going to come into play in just a moment. So let's review those four things. We want the hand to be as high up on the back strap of the gun as possible. Our finger someplace other than the trigger, that's in high register, on the seam between the frame and the slide at least. I want my middle finger hard up against the bottom of the trigger guard, and I want to move my primary thumb high up out of the way so I create space on the gun. Now let's talk about our support hand, or our secondary hand. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to use the meat of this hand to fill up that space that we created over here on the left side of the gun. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to slot it in. My fingers are probably about a 45-degree angle down. I want to make sure, number one, that my index finger is hard up against the bottom of the trigger guard. I want to make sure that my thumbs are layered and not crossed. I want to make sure that my fingers are parallel and nested. And those are the four aspects that I'm looking for. I fill up that space on the side of the gun, no gaps, no spaces. Index finger hard up against the bottom of the trigger guard. My thumbs are going to be layered, not crossed, and my fingers are going to be parallel and nested together. That's what establishes a good grip. Now here's the challenge. For some of you, I may have just suggested that you make some changes to your grip, and making changes can be difficult. Once you establish a solid grip, it probably won't be too hard to keep it there. But what's difficult is when you need to establish that grip. So if you need to reload or load your firearm, if you need to deal with a malfunction, if you draw your firearm, those are all times when that grip needs to be reestablished and done properly. and that can be difficult. So here's what I'd like you to do. I want you to go ahead and get in that perfect grip right now. Again, grab onto the saddle as high on the back strap as possible, finger someplace other than the trigger, middle finger hard up against the trigger guard, thumb high up on the side, creating space. Fill the space with no gaps. Thumbs are layered, not crossed. Index finger hard up against the bottom of the trigger guard. Fingers parallel and nested together. We've got a great grip. Now I want you to take that secondary hand off of the gun. Go ahead, relax it, and I want you to put it back in the same way. Fill the space, no gaps, thumbs layered, not crossed, index finger hard up against the bottom, fingers layered and nested together. Take it off again and relax. Put it back on. Fill the space, layered, not crossed, index finger hard up against, fingers nested and parallel. We'll take it off again and put it back on. Double check it. Make sure that it's perfect. Take it off again. Repeating and getting perfect practice, intentionally solid practice, is going to help to establish your grip and make it the best that it can be. So whenever you're working on your grip, one of the most important things you can do is practice establishing that grip. Practice getting it exactly the way that you want it each and every time. Our goal is to build a neural pathway. Make it feel like this is the natural and only way to hold a gun. Once we do that, we can depend on every time we pick up the gun to be gripping it in just this way. Now, before we go, I want to throw one more thing into this conversation about grip, and that is pressure. We've dealt with the first P throughout this whole video so far, and that's the position of our hands. But now I want to talk about pressure. When it comes to pressure, we're going to be squeezing the gun very, very, very firmly. When it comes to our primary hand, we're going to be squeezing from front to back like a set of pliers. Pressure here and pressure here on that grip. When it comes to our support hand, our secondary hand, we're going to be squeezing from side to side as if we're pushing our fingers into the meat of our hands. It's going to be like this. Pressure here and pressure here. Now, that's how you put the pressure on the gun. The next question is, how much pressure? Masad Aib quoted me in an article with a whole bunch of people that know a heck of a lot more about shooting than I do. What I said was, you're going to want to go ahead and squeeze that gun as hard as you possibly can. Then double the amount of pressure you're putting on the gun. Now you're almost squeezing hard enough. You really can't squeeze this gun too hard, even to the point where it begins to shake. Now, folks, I'm going to make a recommendation to you. Spend some time practicing this grip. Make sure that you're establishing it properly each and every time, and then get out to the range and spend some time shooting the grip. And that's really what it comes down to. It comes down to making sure that you practice what it is that you're learning. How do you do that? Yeah, you guessed it. Get on out there. Get yourself some training. When you do, make sure you keep it simple. Please stay safe, and as always, have a great day.